In my opinion, there's very few places that gray rocking a narcissist can be beneficial for the target and victim. But I do believe it has its place in some of these relationships that we're forced to have with narcissistic individuals. For instance, like kind of gray rocking a boss. Because if you mistreat a boss publicly and that's a narcissist, there's going to be hell to pay. So, just being very matter of fact and yes, sir, I'll get that right away, kind of upbeat and cheery. Um, but then they'll see that as weakness, and some of these digs, they're going to try to land some criticism, some put downs. So you can kind of just try to, in that scenario, try to act like you have selective hearing. And if they demand that you acknowledge that they think you have this character deflaw or fault or whatever, you could just say, yes, sir, you've brought that to my attention previously and I'm working on it. Thank you. And turn and walk away. You almost want to be kind of like a robot with them. Another scenario where I could see gray rocking working is an ex-wife that you share custody with the kids and or the dog. Because I've actually seen that happen. My dog's very first friend, my dog's almost 15, and when he was, let's see, I got him at 8 weeks, and so around 10 and a half, somewhere in there, 12 weeks, we take him to the dog park. And we started going like almost every day after school. I'd pick the kids up and we would take the dog with us to the dog park. So we became real regulars at the dog park. But I just totally lost my train of thought. I was hoping I could bring it back without you noticing. But I make all my videos without any halting and editing, just so that you can get a really, really genuine, authentic version of what I'm trying to say. So, yes, the couple, gray rocking, Bailey was the dog's name. It was half husky and half, I forget. But anyways, it was my first friend that my dog really made and kind of liked. And my dog's very selective on dogs. Normally, he really only has an interest in another dog for like maybe a minute or two. He just wants to like shake their hand by smelling their front, smelling their back, smelling around their face a little bit, and then he's kind of ready to go. Eddie doesn't really have any more interest in playing or anything with the dog. But they had splitting up. It was not a married couple, it was a boyfriend, girlfriend. And we would call and let them know when we were going to the dog park, and they would reciprocate and show up. But then they broke up. And so I had to get the new phone number, and I would try to arrange with whoever had the dog on that day's custody. But I never wrote the dog's days down, and I kept messing up. And I kept calling Brenda on Monday and Tuesday when that was Jeremy's days. And I kept calling Jeremy on Brenda's days, and they started getting mad at me. And, I just had to stop calling. Oh, that's funny. But, normally great rocking is not going to get you very far because all it's going to do is bring, coming from a religious standpoint, we're battling the spiritual battle every second of every day, trying to avoid temptation. Temptation is sin, usually fleshly desires, engaged thoughts, even. And so we're just always in it, and it's tiring to every day, all day, for the rest of our lives, know that we're in this battle. Kind of blanking again. Jeez. So, when you gray rock this family, this person that's close to you, they're going to get angry. And it's going to increase the shots across your bow. And it's going to increase the efforts to land one, to give you a good thumb jab in the ribs, and to really get it to land. That reminds me, it's so strange. This guy in my church was just demanding. He would literally come up to me and demand that I go hiking on Saturday. That he's organizing a few integral people in the church and the clergy, and we're going on this hike. You're going. Like he's my dad or something. And I'd just be like, well, let me check my calendar. I'll get back to you. And he would just be like, you don't have a job, come on, I need you to agree to go. And it's like, can I get that you agree that I'm going to check my calendar and I'll get back with you? Well, in the hour, I need to know. And it'd just be like, when I get to my phone, I'll check my calendar and I'll respond. I'm not sure when that's going to be, and it was really bizarre. But he rushes up to me right after Mass, and he comes up, I'm in the last pew, comes up behind me and jabs his finger in my ribs. And then just starts saying, so you going with us tomorrow? Are you going hiking? Like nothing even happened. And it was on purpose. Every time the guy would see me, he would like shake his head and make some sideways looks and frowns. And then he would interact with me and just act so disappointed in me because I wasn't going. They wanted to be able to shake the carrot, pull the puppeteer strings with everything. And they wanted me to fall in line and completely, I don't know what it is with narcissists, why they have to have this. My mother married a narcissist, remarried, after my dad passed. And the guy would demand, you're at every family party. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care if you get a flat tire. You take an Uber. I'll pay for your car to get towed. You're at every party. There's no way around this. And if you miss one, you're never allowed back to another. And he thought he really got me with that threat because he lived in this big, beautiful house, And it's weird how narcissists totally think it's okay to set up parameters for you that's totally different than the way they treat everyone else. And obviously it's 180 degrees different than how they would ever accept you to treat them. But once again, this gray rocking, any scenario, it's going to infuriate the narcissist, even if this is someone that you barely come in contact with. If you're treating them with indifference, that's an injury, even if they hardly know you. Like if you're just an acquaintance, like a friend of a friend, and you hardly ever see this person, if you just act like, checking the time, checking your phone, you're sitting in the passenger seat of your car while your friend in the driver's seat's interacting with him outside the window, and you're just looking off doing your own thing, maybe fiddling on your phone, like I said, And they're just like, why isn't he looking at me? Doesn't he hear how loud I'm laughing? How I'm making sure that in the things I'm saying to his friend and my friend, how I just got a promotion, how I make six figures. Isn't he hearing this? I don't understand. I feel like reaching across the car seat, reaching across my friend and like slapping this guy. Can't he understand that I'm super cool and I'm saying the things that address that, and he's ignoring it like it's unimportant? How dare he? You know? And so, no matter what, you're not playing the game, and they're gonna be pissed. So, like, but obviously, if you have to interact with a narcissist so far as a child growing up in a home, or you have custody, let's talk about the custody. So the two kids are let's say two kids, they don't deserve any of this. Like, my daughter was 1 year old, even less. My daughter was like 6 months when we first started trial separations. And my daughter, when I would pick my daughter up, I'd get her in the car seat all locked up, and then the mother would say, "Let me say goodbye to my mija." And I'd say, "Okay." And she'd get over the car seat and start crying over my daughter, making my daughter cry. And my son wasn't even alive at this time. But it's just like, really? You don't have enough discernment. You don't have enough understanding as an adult that that's completely unnecessary and extremely harmful for the child. Oh, this is a game. And you have no concern for the well-being of the child at all. Wow. Shoving my kids out in the cold, in the dark, at 6 a.m. in the wintertime with big smiles on their faces because they're little toddlers, and they're coming out on the front porch to be picked up by me with crackers and juice in their hands and some cookies. But I had said I take them straight out for a healthy meal. Please don't give them these processed, prepackaged snacks like you do every time I pick them up, because they were literally like 1 and 2 at the time, and I couldn't take it from them without them crying, and we would always go to Denny's or McDonald's. And so I just asked the mom, "Can you stop giving them these treats, because we'd go out to breakfast." And there was that whole thing at the time that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and you need to eat 3 solid meals. So, as a parent, I was trying to do my best, and I was trying to start them off with eggs and, fat and, calories and protein. So what they would do, the mother and the grandmother, is they would like push them. Even though they had a smile on their face, you'd see them get like kicked from behind. The grandmother was brutal. And so they'd get like pushed out as I was getting out of the car, walking towards the house, I'd see them, and the door would get slammed shut, loud, abrasive. And they'd see me and they'd, "Hi, Dad, look what we got. We got juice and cookies and crackers." And then, like, I'd be opening the gate at the sidewalk and starting to walk in there. The door would open quickly. Whoom, 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 whoom. All the juice and cookies and crackers would get slammed out of their hands. And then they'd get pushed again forward towards me. Hey! So at 6 a.m., once a week, because she'd come to my house the other time, the neighbors would be woken up to hearing this unnecessary drama. But, that's a side note. I was trying, but in this gray rock, what in that scenario, how is gray rock going to work? it actually would work because I wouldn't react. I would just get the kids, say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but I brought a special treat for you," because maybe just something small because I knew this was going to happen. It was happening every time. But I have a special treat for you. You're going to be surprised, and just to get them out, snap out of that crying phase. And then it'd be so small and then we're going to Denny's for your favorite breakfast. Remember how you love the Mickey Mouse pancakes? With the whipped cream and the strawberries. And, because the main thing, what they would have loved is for me to pound on the door and try to call 911. And they just would love that drama. It's life itself. They don't see it as a negative thing to be engaged in anger and drama and yelling and screaming and calling of police. That's all well and good because they feel alive and they get that adrenaline running and they get so pumped up with that adrenaline, and it is addictive. That is a high that's produced naturally by the body that can be addictive. And the narcissists get addicted to that. So, but it could work well with the ex-wife, with the custody of the kids. Not so well with parents or siblings, because they're gonna just keep going on you, and they're gonna try to corner you. Obviously this gets done on the phone alone, or gets done in person alone. But if it's a malignant narcissist, there's going to be public attempts at humiliating you, and it's tireless. So you just have to be a really, really firmly grounded person. And in most instances where gray rock will not work, it's time to depart. But in these instances, like even after I finally stopped child support when my kids were like, I could have stopped it when they were like 18, but I waited till they were like in their 20s. I'm just a nice guy, and mother loves money so much that I just wanted to keep the wheels greased as much as possible. But when I finally did end it, I still allowed open lines of communication because I was still kind of hoping for a relationship with my kids, but I've kind of given up hope, really. And so I finally blocked her number. There's no real reason. If I have no relationship with my kids, and the mother and the grandmother are the ones that caused this whole terrible scenario, what reason do I have to stay in contact with that, covert, very much of a smiling in your face person, as she just destroys your life. The grandmother, don't get me started. But there you have some information about gray rock, at least my 2 cents on it. It's something that you want to, it's not necessary in most instances, but there is these few select cases where it's the best road to travel because you have to maintain contact. Hope that resonated. God bless you. Have a good day.